Hello gamers, it's SoftKitty99, the Happy Gamer, and here we are in Parkitect. We're in the Taste of Adventure expansion and we're working through the campaign scenarios. In today's episode I'd like to give you a tour of the park that I built for Celeste Mountain. Now I hear that this is based on a game and that the strawberries are a signature item in the game itself. It's not a game that I've ever played or heard about myself, so if you have played that game, just remember to look for the strawberries while you're in the scenario, because apparently they're hidden around just as a nod to the game itself. Anyway, the scenario here, Celeste Mountain. This mysterious mountain is rumoured to have magical properties. A strange old man is willing to cheaply sell you land on the mountain, so long as you develop it into a thriving theme park to draw extra guests to his hotel. And the hotel's up on the mountain, kind of behind the area of the theme park, right on the edge of the area that you can build to that you can buy to expand into. The scenario asks you to have at least 800 guests in your park, and that's quite a lot of people, but that's the only requirement to complete the scenario itself. But the optionals give you all sorts of tricky additional things to do. Optional, have at least 200 guests in your park, which gives you a little bit of extra money to help you build. Optional, complete all non-optional goals without building while the game is paused. So you can pause while you think about what you're going to do, but you have to do all building, and that includes paths, without it being paused to get the gold medal. And as you can see, I didn't get the gold medal. Nowhere near did I manage to get the gold medal. Optional, complete all goals without using any tracked ride blueprints, which you know is one of the ones I struggle with because I'm really bad at building coasters. I do keep trying, and sometimes I think I've learned something, and then other times I think no, I've not learned anything, I'm just as bad or even worse than when we started. So it's quite funny watching me try and do these things. Anyway, I will show you a couple of things that I've built myself during this one, and the other optional is to complete all non-optional goals by the end of December year 3. Now this is going to be super difficult if you really want to do all of those non-optionals and get the gold medal. Now I am way beyond the 3 years, and in the end I did build a couple of coasters myself without using tracked ride blueprints, and I struggled and built them and deleted them and changed bits here and there, and it took me a really long time. And as you can see, we're on year 9, and after I'd exceeded the year 3 I did put in some pre-built tracked rides from the ride tracker thing, so we did use some of the pre-built rides after I'd gone past the year 3 section. So let's zoom. There we go, there's the entrance. So the entrance is here just across this bridge over the little river, and the hotel that they refer to is this building back here, which when you first start is way outside the edge of your park area. So when you first start you get a small section like somewhere around this kind of area, just where all these buildings are. See these buildings here? Most of these buildings come at the very beginning, so it looks like you've had some sort of military structure or lab base or something that you are now using the area for your park. So you come in here and you have a small area to start building with, and then you start having to buy extra land to expand. And once you've bought all the land, I think I managed to buy almost all the land, so it comes to the edge here, which is where your receiving depot is, right here off to the side of the park, and then you can see the extent it goes now outside where the hotel build is and all the way up onto this mountain. And the next thing I would have done was try and add in some sort of Alpine Coaster on this big mountain, which I was actually not looking forward to, because that meant I was going to have to build one myself and it was a bit of a struggle. So there's the park, the overview of the park that I built. As you can see, the first couple of rides over here, the Wild Mouse, this coaster that snakes over and around the buildings, and this one here were the ones that I built myself, and then the ones added later after the 3-year mark. This one, and this one were all pre-built tracked rides, just so you know which ones I built. So let's start at the entrance to the park. with the things that I built first and show you what I did. So the very first thing I did was build this wild mouse coaster. Oh no, which I've actually managed to close at some point and forget to reopen, which is possibly one of the reasons that I didn't get this done quite so early. That's a big shame, isn't it? Oh dear. Whoopsie whoopsie, we made a mess. So you can see it's basically a very simple layout. You come out of the station, you've got your big lift hill, you've got a little dip, and you've got all the twiddly track, and then you've got another couple of little dips, one coming this way, one coming this way, and back into the station. So it's a pretty simple layout for a wild mouse, standard sort of fare, and that was the very first thing that I built. And then I moved on to try and build this coaster here, which is a vertical drop coaster. So as you come out of the station, you go up and over a building, then you snake around the buildings, do the inverted like cobra roll type thing, and then you come back into the station. So it's a fairly simple little ride, and this building I built at the side of this little complex that we start with. So these buildings were already in. So I built this in the same sort of style. So we used these types of building blocks, kept it to the grey tones, kept it very chunky and simple, just in keeping with the builds that we've already got. So we utilised the terrain as much as we could with no, it's not like a top hat. It's just quite a small top hat, isn't it? They're up and over the building. Snake around these buildings here, twist up and down here, and come back to the station. So this then allowed us to put in a path underneath this section of the coaster so that we could add our jumper and our clockwork, so that we've got this nice interaction between the rides, and you pass underneath the vertical drop coaster to get to these. So as you can see, that's how those have been added in. And then you can see now I've added, later in the scenario, I added a path that goes underneath the two coasters to come out, pop out here to add another coaster later on in the game. This one is the Ataxia Estate, which is one of the pre-built ones. And as you can see, it's a flying coaster. If I zoom out just a little bit, that's one of the pre-built ones. So you can get that from the pre-built models. And I built kind of an industrial aircraft hangar style of little station building using the corrugated iron half arches, and then just extended a little porch area over where you come in and out of the ride. And that's the only ride that comes off that little passageway underneath here. Then directly opposite to that, zoomed a little bit too far in here, directly opposite of these rides, over this way, is another coaster that I built. This one's a little steel coaster. So this one's a little bit crazy on the stats, a little bit too high perhaps on the intensity, and the excitement's not quite so crazy. As you can see, the ride around, it's not terribly popular because the intensity is just a little bit much, but it does have a steady trickle of people coming in. And as I say, it's me again practicing my builds. So we've got the loop, lots of little twiddly bits, then we've got the 180-degree roll, and then a few more twiddly bits and bring you back to the station. So it's not a bad little layout, I don't think. I'm quite pleased with that. I do think I'm learning some things about the coasters, but I'm still struggling a lot with like banking and knowing which things are going to be high intensity and which things aren't. And as you can see, I did add a few of those strawberries into the decoration. And because the outside area here looks a lot of snow, fairly barren landscape, not too many trees and things, we've tried to stick with that kind of design for the decoration and the foliage inside the park. So I've tried not to go too overboard with the foliage. So that is the entrance to the park alongside our nice calm ride, the plane carousel, which we put right next to the entry bridge. And of course information desk and the cash machine, just so there's a few little amenities in the build. So if we keep coming along this way now, that's the entrance section of the build. So if we come this way, the path goes through this building and then brings you round to this square. All of these buildings were originally in the build. This one, this one, this one, this one. That one I added later to keep it in with the style of thing that we've already got here. And I've added a food court right here. So if I drop the roof for you so you can see what we've got, and we have fruit juices, cookies, funnel cakes, pizza, come and get this clean guys, vending machine, hot dogs and pretzels. Why have you not cleaned that guys? So we've got quite a few shops here in this area. When we first started we had I think 3. I think we started with fruit juice, funnel cakes and the vending machine. I think that's what we started with, and we had to research for more. So this is what we've ended up with. And for the staff path, I've led it straight through. This was just an open square area, so I made this into the food court. So they've got a path straight through the middle, and as you can see the path dips underneath a little building and pathway here, and then comes out here, which is right next to where I've added the staff room and where the goods receiving depot is. So what I've done is I've utilised some of the buildings that were already here. See, so this building and this half demolished building were already here. So I added this building right at the edge of that, connected through these buildings for the food court. And then I added this little flat building to hide the goods in department and the staff room and the staff path coming through here. And as you can see, the staff room itself is in this pre-built building. So we tried to utilise as much of the space that they gave us in the best way that we could. And of course it goes underground because I've managed to run a path through this building into this section of the park, so you can go all the way around this square where the shops are. And off this square I've added a G-lock. And then on the opposite side we've got the launched drop tower, the traditional carousel, and then half on top of a building here, look, if I can do you a rotate round, we've got this tall tower with these extensions of like scaffolding all the way around. You can see it extends here, so we've partially built the helter-skelter on top of that, so that the path comes down into our square, so that we're utilising as much of the space as we can. And then around here, if we come around the back of the build, we've added seating all the way around the square. Little bit of seating and a map just hidden here behind the back of the build. And this is the opposite side of where the path comes through for the guests. And then up a tiny little bit of a hill here we have the experience, and then coming down onto a lower section behind this we've got the Skyfall. We've got 2 motion simulators using slightly different interior things. Let me show you which ones have we got. We are using the Star Force on that one and the first Starfighter on the second simulator. So they're side by side, so you can pick which one you want to travel on. Then we have a Twister, and right at the back we have a top scan. So we've utilised the space right up to the very edge of the area that we've got to build in, so we managed to add a load of flat rides around the back here, and you get a nice view from the top of this drop tower out over the square and some of the other rides. And then right next to the goods receiving depot we've managed to fit in a turbine as well, so that we're trying to make sure we've got all different intensities of rides. So if I zoom out again so you can see this area of the park, so this is the edge of the park from the turbine and round the big square with our big food court right in the centre. And I've also added a toilet facility in this pre-built building just off this path that goes through the building. And then if we come out of the square in this direction, slightly up the hill past these pre-built buildings and our coaster that we built earlier, it leads you up the hills into the next area of the park, which is very coaster heavy. So the first one that you come to off this path is up this hill, where we've added another one of these buildings to make everything fairly simple. It's the Launch Force State coaster, which again is one of the pre-built ones, which sits quite nicely on this mountain. I did have to terrain very slightly to get this flat area for the station build, but I think it fits beautifully in this little bit of space that we've got up the hill, and it meant that we've got enough space at the bottom to add all of those flat rides. And then the next thing right up the side here, we've managed to fit in a transformer just in this very back section right next to the path that leads to the hotel building. And in between those two things, on this little bit of area, we did have to dig out a little bit of space. We've used the double track hang time build from the monorail coaster, which we've used previously in a couple more of the builds for our parks. And we've changed the colours to kind of match the sort of pale colours and give it slightly different colouring. So we've got the pink one and the grey and white one, so it all matches quite nicely. So that's what we've got sitting up on this hill over here. And then if we rotate around so that you can see that from the other direction, this is the hotel that they were talking about in the blurb for the scenario itself. And also off this side here, again, another building that I built from this style of architecture, the very plain grey concrete sort of military style build for a station for Headrush State, which again is a monorail type coaster which twirls around in like a little knot in and out of the building. And so I've tried to build the building around the coaster so that you've got access in and out of the building from the different directions. So you can see you've got two loops out from here, and you've got two loops in here, one through the roof and one through the side, and then the rest of the build loops around the back of the building itself, which I think actually works really well in conjunction with this big square area that we've got over here. And this again is the coaster that I showed you that goes through the underground passage up to here. And then you do have a little bit more build space at the back here. So as I said, I was thinking maybe an Alpine Coaster would have fit here, but I was really glad that I didn't need to build that, because I wasn't quite sure how I was going to build that, because you know I'm not great at building coasters. But I think that these things have turned out quite well actually, so I'm quite pleased with the park, and I hope that you've enjoyed my tour of my mountain for the Celeste Mountain scenario. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. From SoftKitty99, goodbye and happy gaming!